Hi guys, welcome back to the Project Drona series, Laws in Banking and Finance. The module is the first one, Legal Framework of the Indian Banking System. तो फ्रेंड्स, अब तक इस सीरीज में हम कई एस्पेक्ट्स कवर कर चुके हैं अबाउट द लीगल फ्रेमवर्क अपॉन विच द इंडियन बैंकिंग सिस्टम इज़ बेस्ड. हमने थोड़ा देखा अबाउट द सिग्निफिकेंट एक्ट्स दैट आर कवरिंग द बैंकिंग सिनेरियो. इस वीडियो में we shall be taking a step further in the same direction. We have almost come half the way in covering various acts and enactments. So stick around for this installment because they are essential from a banker's perspective. In this video, let's have a look at the legal constitution of banks in India. तो अगर हम बात करें बैंक्स की लीगल कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की, तो ये हमारे देश में तीन तरह की कॉन्स्टिट्यूशंस में पाए जाते हैं. One is corporates under a statute. Two is as companies, and the third one is as cooperative societies. Does that ring a bell? Let's go a little further and see what they are. So the first one is corporates under a statute. Do you know what a statute is? Well, as you can see on the screen, the meaning of a statute is a written law passed by a legislative body. So ये उन बैंक्स की बात कर रहे हैं that have come to be corporates by the virtue of being passed under various laws. इसमें तीन तरह के बैंक्स आते हैं: the nationalized banks, the State Bank of India and its associates, and the regional rural banks. We'll have a detailed look on all these three types as we progress in the series. The creation of some of these banks has to do with the Banking Companies Acquisition and Transfer of Undertakings Act in the year 1970 and 80. We'll have a look at that as we progress in the video. Then we come to the second type, which was that banks can exist as companies. So they basically exist as banking companies, and they are of two types. They are domestic companies and they are foreign companies. And to give you a better idea, all the private sector banks that we know of fall under the companies constitution. So the third type of legal entity that banks can exist in is as a cooperative society. Does the word cooperative society ring a bell in your head? Well, when somebody would say cooperative society to me, the first word that comes to my mind is Amul. So does that ring a bell? Anyways, we'll go ahead and discuss cooperative societies as well. And for now, let's just keep this in mind that banks can also exist as cooperative societies. Now, there are cooperative banks that have been created under the state acts. A little brief into the nature of cooperative societies. Generally, cooperative societies are formed by state legislatures. So, these cooperative banks, if they have been passed by state acts, they are generally limited to, their area of operation is limited to a single state. However, there are multi-state cooperative banks as well. These banks have been created under central acts. और जैसा कि आप इन वीडियोस में देख चुके होंगे, मैंने कई बार आप लोगों को कमिट किया है that we will deal with this topic at a later stage, we will deal with that topic at a later stage. So from now onwards, I am going to park these topics right inside the video so that it is my commitment to you that we are going to come back to them again. So in this video, we are parking the topic, what are cooperative societies? Coming back to corporates under a statute, as I had discussed earlier, that there are three types of entities established as corporates under a statute. They are nationalized banks, State Bank of India and its associates, and the regional rural banks. तो इस वीडियो में हम थोड़ा सा स्टडी करेंगे स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया एंड इट्स एसोसिएट्स को. So friends, State Bank of India, or as we more commonly know it as SBI. SBI finds its legal origins under the State Bank of India Act in the year 1955, under Section 3 of the same Act. It is a body corporate, as we know it, whose major stake is held by the Government of India as of today. And no stakeholder in the bank can acquire a voting right greater than 10%. This has also been laid down in the Act itself. So जैसा कि हम बात कर रहे थे that SBI is one of those bodies that have been established as a corporate under a statute. The statute here is the State Bank of India Act. So in the case of these statutes, there is a common line that is used to define them. And that line is, it is a body corporate with perpetual succession and common seal, and shall sue and be sued in its name. ये जो statement है, it is not only valid for SBI but also for all its associates and all the other nationalized banks. इस statement में explain बहुत कुछ किया गया है. The first important word to have a look at is it's a body corporate. That we have already discussed. Then it says it has perpetual succession. Perpetual succession का क्या मतलब हुआ? Perpetual succession is that it is one of those legal entities where the head does not mean it is the legal entity. If the head retires, resigns, or let's say dies, the entity will not be dissolved. It will continue to function. And somebody else must come and succeed it. Then it has a common seal. And it also says that this, as a body, has been given the authority to sue and be sued in its name. Which means, इसे वो legal authority दी गई है कि अगर if it has to file a legal case against somebody, it can sue in its own name. If you will go and check some legal precedents and case laws, you might find SBI versus so-and-so versus the State Bank of India. That is because it has been given that legal authority that it can sue somebody in its name and it can also be sued in the name of the bank. क्योंकि इस वीडियो में हम स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया एंड इट्स एसोसिएट्स को कवर करने वाले हैं, I think it is only fair to have a look at the history of State Bank of India. See, initially there used to be an Imperial Bank of India. However, when the State Bank of India Act got passed in the year 1955, this same bank, the Imperial Bank of India, was rechristened into the State Bank of India, with the Reserve Bank of India acquiring a 60% stake in the bank. However, of late, in the year 2008, this stake, the one that RBI held, was acquired by the government of India. चलिए अब थोड़ा आगे चलते हैं. Let's have a look at the management, the structure of the bank, because it has been formed under a legal act. And this is the same set of things that we would be covering for the nationalized banks and the regional rural banks as well. So, let's talk about the management of SBI. Its central office, or its corporate center as they call it, is situated at Mumbai, where the central board also sits. And it has local head offices in the different cities of the country. They are 14 in number as of date. और इसके सेंट्रल बोर्ड की संरचना कुछ इस प्रकार है. The central board consists of a chairman, a vice chairman, and managing directors. The managing directors can be 2 maximum. Then there are heads of the local boards. The local boards are the local head offices in this case. And then there are other directors that are appointed by the government of India. Guys, before we move any further, मैं आप लोगों से एक request करना चाहूँगा. Do not take these sessions too studiously. Try to understand what is being said and try and observe the patterns that lie in these statements. Do not try to memorize and ratify these things. मेरी सिर्फ यही कहने की कोशिश है कि इन चीज़ों को पढ़िए, इन्हें observe कीजिए. Try to understand what the logical connections are here in the statements that I am going to make and try and absorb the images in your head. That should help you to memorize just enough to prepare you for this exam. Chaliye guys, so far we have studied the central board of the State Bank of India. Let us have a look at the first 2 designations, the chairman and the vice chairman. Both of them are appointed by the government of India, as one can logically assume it to be so. They are appointed for a tenure of 5 years and they can be reappointed. However, it is seen that generally when these personnel, when they reach their retirement age of 60, they retire from these positions, even if they have not completed their 5 years of tenure. Besides this, the Government of India can terminate their services either by giving them a 3-month notice or 3 months salary in lieu. What does that mean? That means अगर गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया इन्हें हटाना चाहती है, या तो इन्हें 3 महीने का नोटिस देकर हटा सकती है कि यू आर बीइंग रिमूव्ड within the period of 3 months that you have to serve from now onwards, or if the government of India wants to remove them immediately from their office, it can give them the 3 months salary instead. Now let us come to the heads of local boards. जैसा कि मैंने कहा, heads of local boards हैं इनके SBI के local head offices के chiefs. So wherever these local boards are, the local head offices are, they have been given the authorities to act as local boards under section 21B of the act, where they have been given certain functions and duties that they have to follow. Now let us come to certain notes that I would want you to observe here in this session. Under the State Bank of India Act, it has been mentioned that SBI can act as an agent of Reserve Bank of India, where Reserve Bank of India does not have a branch, if RBI wants so. And in this case, if RBI wants SBI to act as an agent of RBI, the terms of such arrangement will be settled between RBI and SBI. However, come the situation where RBI and SBI cannot settle these terms between themselves, then the central government will decide on these terms and its decision will prevail. And it is also true for the associate banks of SBI. Now let's come to another important segment, the accounts and audit. Well, as far as the Indian laws are concerned, any entity that performs any transactions in India is supposed to maintain its books and have a protocol for audits. So as far as SBI is concerned, it must close its books by the 31st March of every year, the financial year of which began on the 1st of April of the previous year. और 31 मार्च को जब वो अपनी बुक्स क्लोज करता है तो उसके बाद within 3 months it must submit 4 reports to the Government of India as well as the Reserve Bank. These 4 reports are its balance sheet, its profit and loss statement, the auditor's report, and its report by the Central Board on working and activities of the bank. So, I will reiterate the 4 things that are supposed to be presented by the bank to the Government of India as well as RBI. The balance sheet, the profit and loss statement, the auditor's report, and the report by the Central Board on the working and activities of the bank. For people who are in banking for a while now, they understand the importance of these 4 reports, and the ones who have done some academic experience in commerce stream or accounts will also understand these 4 reports. Balance sheet and P&L statement generally go hand in hand. The auditor's report, since it is such a big PSU, it is important for it to conduct an audit and have the auditor's report submitted to its controllers. And then certainly the report by Central Board on the working and activities of the bank is an important report that is compiled by every large company and submitted for the information of not only its controllers but also for the information of its major shareholders. And this report is open for the discussion at the annual general meeting, which should be held within 6 weeks of sending the above reports. Just to recapitulate the entire point, 31 मार्च को हर साल the bank has to close its accounts, and within a maximum period of 3 months it has to submit the 4 reports to RBI as well as the central government. And from the day that it submits these 4 reports to the bodies, the two bodies that we just discussed, from that day, within 6 weeks, it has to conduct the annual general meeting for all the bank's shareholders. चलिए, तो अब तक तो हमने डिस्कस करा बैंक के अकाउंट्स के बारे में. लेट अस कम टू द ऑडिट पार्ट. Well, under section 226 of the Companies Act, every company must undergo an audit at least once a year. And in case of SBI, no director, member of its local boards, or an officer of the bank is eligible to become the auditor, which means the auditor must come from outside the bank. If you think about it logically, certainly somebody who should audit your organization should not be a part of your organization to give a clearer, unbiased picture to the world. So, who eventually appoints the auditor? Well, the auditor of SBI is appointed by the Reserve Bank of India, certainly in consultation with the central government. And the auditor's report and the report on central board, both of these reports are, once they are compiled, they are placed before the parliament for their observation. चलिए अब एक नज़र मारते हैं at the associate banks of State Bank of India. As on date, स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया के 5 एसोसिएट बैंक्स हैं जो टेक्निकली इसके सब्सिडियरीज हैं. दे आर स्टेट बैंक ऑफ बीकानेर एंड जयपुर, स्टेट बैंक ऑफ पटियाला, स्टेट बैंक ऑफ हैदराबाद, स्टेट बैंक ऑफ त्रावणकोर एंड स्टेट बैंक ऑफ मैसूर. These banks were established under Section 3 of the State Bank of India Subsidiary Banks Act in the year 1959. Except for the State Bank of Hyderabad. This was formed under a separate act. इससे पहले स्टेट बैंक के 2 और एसोसिएट बैंक्स होते थे. दे वर स्टेट बैंक ऑफ सौराष्ट्र एंड स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंदौर. A few years ago, they were merged with the State Bank of India. तो अब अगर हम बात एसोसिएट बैंक्स की कर रहे हैं तो लेट अस हैव अ लुक एट द मैनेजमेंट स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ एसोसिएट बैंक्स. दिस कंप्राइजेस ऑफ द डायरेक्टर्स who are presided by the managing director. And as far as the chairman of associate banks is concerned, the chairman of SBI is the ex officio chairman of the associate banks. Ex officio means that here, by the virtue of the fact that he is the chairman of SBI, he is automatically the chairman of the other associate banks. तो जो मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर होता है, his responsibilities include the administration of the associate bank on a daily basis, which means he's basically heading the bank. The managing director in this case is appointed by the State Bank of India and can be removed by the State Bank in consultation with RBI after giving a show cause notice. कहने का भाव है कि managing director of associate banks can be removed by SBI guys, but they have to consult with RBI first. That I think is pretty much evident because इतनी important position से किसी को remove करने के लिए you would definitely need an authority from a higher body. Then there are the other directors. These other directors are appointed by RBI and the central government, and they are to be nominated by shareholders as well. So इसमें उन्हीं के यूनियन के चीफ्स रहते हैं, and then there are other directors that are appointed by the Reserve Bank. और जैसे कि हमने डिस्कस किए थे कुछ important points in the form of notes when we were discussing SBI, there are certain things that you should know about the associate banks as well. जैसे State Bank has to act as an agent of RBI, the associate banks have to act as an agent of State Bank of India under the SBI Subsidiary Banks Act. The section 36 of it says so. And as far as the audit reports and the final reports are concerned, they are to be submitted not only to the Reserve Bank of India and the central government, they also have to be submitted to the State Bank of India, because ultimately they are subsidiaries of State Bank of India. So their financial statements are amalgamated into the big financial statements of the State Bank of India group. And as far as the auditor of the associate banks are concerned, they are appointed by the SBI. There is another thing. As far as rule-making powers are concerned, under the Subsidiary Banks Act, it has also been provided that if at some point of time you need to make certain rules, so who can make them? Under the Subsidiary Banks Act, Section 63 entitles State Bank to make rules in the subsidiary banks, and central government is vested with the power of rule making under Section 62. तो दोस्तों, इस वीडियो में तो हमने डिस्कस करा स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया एक्ट को एंड द वेरियस स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया सब्सिडियरीज को. Don't worry, the heavy duty acts are almost about to get over. There are few more acts that we have to discuss, and then this section will get finished. And then we'll be moving on to other interesting, I am very sure interesting aspects of the legal framework of the Indian banking system. So till then, stay with me, and this is your host signing off. Thank you.